Now, to discuss this new development and the challenges before the new acting CJN, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by legal practitioner Mr. Joshua Alobo, and he joins me from Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you.
All right. Now, this change of guard.
First and foremost, I wish to congratulate President Donald Trump, President-elect, and also congratulate the acting CJN that was sworn in by the President, because otherwise there will be a constitutional crisis. But at least before the retired Justice Mahmoud actually retired, he was sworn in. So it's a good development for Nigeria Judiciary.
Okay. I was actually going to ask... if I can just put the question to you, and then you can answer back if you can hear me clearly. I was trying to say that this change of guard has come at a time when there's a lot of criticism for the judiciary. So how do you think the new acting CJN should process?
In as much as he has been in the Supreme Court since 2005, that is almost 7 years now, he is abreast with the problem of the judiciary, and good enough, there have been a lot of institutional framework with what has happened between October 7 and 8. So you see that the revised code of conduct for judicial officer, the national judicial policy, all are targeted to strengthen the judiciary in Nigeria. So for me, the Justice Onoge is an erudite justice that is aware of the problem in the judiciary, and he will frontally tackle it, as has already been commenced with the NJC position and so the position of the justices that were arrested. So to me, a lot of things has already been resolved prior to his appointment today in the acting capacity, pending when the confirmation will be made by the Senate in due course.
Yeah, and you see the outgoing CJN asking the incoming CJN to ensure that the judiciary remains independent. To what extent is the bigger question?
Because the independence of the judiciary is the safest safeguard for a democratic institution to flourish. And for him to make that statement, it shows that there have been a lot of influence which he posited that would have made the democracy to be derailed, if not that the judiciary stood firm. So for him to talk about maintaining the independence of the judiciary is to make sure that there's no interference from the executive and the legislature in discharging the onerous duty of safeguarding the fundamental right of the citizenry, and then the overriding objective that is encapsulated in the Constitution. The call is a wake-up call for every judicial officer to abide by the code of conduct in order for the judgment that is delivered to have inherent aspect of justice, because there's a distinction between a judgment and justice. Once a judgment has element of justice, the society will flourish, and then there will be a prosperity for the nation, and by so doing, the independence of the judiciary will be safeguarded. But if the independence of the judiciary is not safeguarded by the judges, and they are allowed to be influenced by any association whatsoever, like what has been in the public domain, it will impugn the independence of the judiciary. And that is why the outgoing CJN advised and admonished the judiciary as an institution to make sure that their judgment reflect the position of the law, and not to allow any interference from the executive in particular, because I think the major problem of the judiciary, based on what the outgoing CJN have said, squarely lie with the executive arm, because the executive arm has made subtle attempt to corrupt the judiciary. We must look at this issue holistically, and for every arms of government that is fighting corruption must ensure trying to corrupt the system. That is the essence of that admonition.
Well, you're saying that the executive has tried to corrupt the judiciary is the subject of debate. That's your own personal opinion. But what I would say is, what about when you're talking about judicial officers being accused themselves? Let's not look at interference from outside. What should the new CJN do in a case where you have judicial officers, the ones being accused?
Look, I'm not trying to say that the aspect of of corruption in the judiciary lie with the executive. That's not what I'm trying to say. In as much as the code of conduct has been in existence and the machinery for the enforcement of that code have been set up and the NJC is alive to its responsibility, it lies on the judicial officer to decide whether to remain in the bench or no, because once you play politics and you compromise the sacred oath that you take that was sworn at the time of becoming a judge, then such person, that action amount to misconduct, and that was well spelled out. And like in the course of the speech today, the revised edition of the Code of Conduct was even brought to the public domain because a lot of persons thought that is the 1998 that is operational. And the ethics, the ethics committee that was set up, headed by Kutigi, and then the committee of anti-corruption and transparency that was set up on the 27th of October, all is geared to ensure that the judicial officer is alive to his responsibility, because we cannot shy away or say that it's AYZ that is responsible for the problem in the judiciary, because the problem lies within the system, and NJC is an establishment administrative body that is capable of cleansing the system once they are ready to exercise the power that is the Constitution has donated to it, pursuant to Section 153 of the Constitution. And like what the outgoing CJ have said, and what is already on the ground, with the decision of NJC that without that they have asked the arrested judges, even though they have not been charged to court, to stop sitting, you can see that it shows that they are also in line with the public opinion. Because in Nigeria, we think that public opinion does not count. It does. Even the NBA has eventually buy into the domain of the public opinion in order to make sure that justice is seen to be done, because he who comes to equity must come with a clean hand. And when you seek to determine the affair of any human being, you must live above the board, like in Caesar. And that was even the threshold of the admonition by the CJN, that they must be conscious of their oath of office to live above the board, because we cannot keep on blaming the game that is the executive of the legislature that is responsible for the corruption in the judiciary. It's an in-house issue that NJC is empowered to cleanse, and I think they have woke up.
Thank you, legal practitioner Mr. Joshua Alobo. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.